Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Lazarus Out Loud, where me and my little guest, Phoenix on Fire, are reading the Harry Potter series, one chapter a video. We're still on the first book. We're almost halfway through. We finished up chapter 7 yesterday, which was the Sorting Hat. And in chapter 8, Harry is going to start his magical lessons. We're making a video. What's up? Oh, thanks. So, yeah, chapter 7 was the Sorting Hat. We got our first glimpse of the interior of Hogwarts. We met some ghosts. Harry got sorted into his house, which was Gryffindor, along with Hermione, Neville, Seamus, and those are the only named characters, I think. Percy was already in Gryffindor, but that should have been retconned. Percy's totally a Slytherin, and you cannot convince me otherwise, but that's okay. No one's perfect. So yeah, chapter 8 is called The Potions Master, and we also noticed when Harry made eye contact with the Potions Master, his scar hurt out of nowhere for a second. This is a cool picture. These potions all look really cool. Probably shouldn't drink them without knowing what they do. What's up?
What do you need now?
Hey buddy, don't be whining on video. It's not a good look. Okay, thanks Dad. So, are you ready? To start chapter 8, The Potions Master. Do you have anything to add?
Why'd you say don't be whining on video?
Because it's not flattering at all.
We got posters in the background.
We do. We have our Monster Jam collage. And there's a picture of me.
And there's a stadium map in the garage.
Yeah, we'll make a video of that maybe on my days off. That's more involved. Okay, so I'm going to start reading after I remove this annoying cover. Okay, so.
Let me add something.
Okay, go ahead.
There's no pictures.
There's a picture. See, these are all potions.
The pictures are all on there.
Yeah, there's pictures on some pages, not all the pages. Okay. So, Harry's about to begin his classes after...
Ouch.
What, your feetsies?
No, they were just shaking for a second.
Okay, you got a little cramp.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. There, look. Where? Next to the tall kid with the red hair. Wearing the glasses. Did you see his face? Did you see his scar? Whispers followed Harry from the moment he left his dormitory next day. People queuing outside classrooms stood on tiptoe to get a look at him, all doubled back to pass him in the corridors again, staring.
So he's leaving the desert. See it? Shit. It stops eventually.
What does?
When we make a video of that.
Of what?
Of the stadium.
Yeah, we'll do that. Let's do this first, because this one's easier and doesn't take that much time. The other one's more involved, and I have to get ready for work soon. So, people were staring at Harry. Harry wished they wouldn't, because he was trying to concentrate on finding his way to classes. There were 142 staircases at Hogwarts.
Why are we doing the thing?
What?
The accent.
Do you not want me to? You want me to, don't you? It's a British tale, so I think it should be read in a British accent, even if my British accent isn't perfect. Okay. There were 142 staircases at Hogwarts. Wide, sweeping ones, narrow, rickety ones. Some that led somewhere different on a Friday. Some with a vanishing step halfway up that you had to remember to jump.
Why were other shelves full of books in that chapter?
In Dudley's room?
Yeah, and one that looked as though they've never been touched.
Dudley doesn't really like to read books. That was just all she was trying to say.
And does Hedwig ever listen to Harry?
Yeah, Hedwig's his little buddy. She delivers his mail and she...
No. Does she make like a path out?
He lets her out once they get to the school, and she goes and sleeps in the owlery and flies around and comes to visit him at breakfast.
Was it later?
If he has mail. Right now he doesn't really know anyone, so he doesn't get mail yet, but he'll get mail at some point. Okay.
In the book?
Yeah, he'll get mail soon, actually.
Do we have book 5?
We have book 5, an illustrated version. Okay. Then there were dolls that wouldn't...
Book 7 and book 6 you have to get illustrated.
Yeah, unfortunately. It's too bad. There'll still be like one picture on the chapter page, but it'll be small and black and white. Okay, pay attention, mister. Okay. Then there were doors that wouldn't open unless you asked politely or tickled them in exactly the right place. And doors that weren't really doors at all, but solid walls just pretending. It was also very hard.
Why did you get a new TV?
Because I broke the other one. It was...
Why?
Because I was clumsy and I knocked it over, buddy, and I broke it. That one actually fits better on that stand, so I think that one will be okay.
Did you trip over it?
I don't remember. I was fussing over there and it fell over. That's all I remember. And it broke. Okay, shit happens.
Does it still work?
That one works. The other one still worked. It just, the picture was messed up, so I wanted a new one. I like looking at a clear picture. Okay.
Not an unclear picture.
What? Not an unclear picture. Yeah. It was also very hard to remember.
Mama.
You're killing Miss Moss. It was also very hard to remember what anything was because it all seemed to move around a lot. The people in the portraits kept going to visit each other, and Harry was sure the coat of armor could walk. The ghosts didn't help either. It was always a nasty shock when one of them glided suddenly through a door you were trying to open. Nearly Headless Nick was always happy to point new Gryffindors in the right direction, but Peeves the Poltergeist was worth 2 locked doors and a trick staircase if you met him when you were late for class. He would drop waste paper baskets on your head, pull rugs from under your feet, pelt you with bits of chalk, or sneak up behind you, invisible, grab your nose, and screech, "Got your conch!" Even worse than Peeves, if that was possible, was the caretaker, Argus Filch. Yes. Harry and Ron managed to get on the wrong side of him on their very first morning. Please don't take my hat off. My hair looks like shit. As always. So Harry and Ron managed to get on the wrong side of him on their very first morning. Filch found them trying to force their way through a door which unluckily turned out to be the entrance to the out-of-bounds corridor on the 3rd floor. Sorry. He wouldn't believe they were lost, was sure they were trying to break into it on purpose, and was threatening to lock them in the dungeons when they were rescued by Professor Quirrell, who was passing. Filch owned a cat called Mrs. Norris, a scrawny, dust-colored creature with bulging, lamp-like eyes just like Filch's. She patrolled the corridors alone.
Creature?
She's a cat, yeah. Break a rule in front of her, put
Did
just...
she ever turn into a person?
No, she's just a cat. Break a rule in front of her, put just one toe out of line, and she'd whisk off for Filch, who'd appear wheezing 2 seconds later. Filch knew the secret passageways of the school better than anyone, except perhaps the Weasley twins, and could pop up as suddenly as any of the ghosts. The students all hated him, and it was the dearest ambition of many to give Mrs. Norris a good kick. And then, once you had managed to find them, there were the lessons themselves. There was a lot more to magic, as Harry quickly found out, than waving your wand and saying a few funny words. They had to study the night skies through
I turned the volume up.
Of what?
The school iPad. And I figured they would get mad at me.
But they didn't?
Yeah, but I turned it down I asked, do you need it turned down? Do you need it turned down? But they didn't answer.
I'm sure they were fine then if they didn't say anything. They were probably okay. That was nice of you to ask, though.
I did ask, but they never did answer me.
Okay, buddy, they were probably busy or didn't hear you. It's okay. Sorry if you felt ignored. No, you don't like that. No one does. Okay.
I don't like the door shut in front of me when I'm screaming.
Okay, buddy, let's not talk about this on the video, okay? Can you just read the book? Talk about the book, and then we can talk about this after?
Why?
Because I don't want the world to know what goes on in our private house. This is a video about reading Harry Potter, okay? And we're putting it on YouTube, so to have some boundaries. Okay. They had to study the night skies through their telescopes every Wednesday at midnight and learn the names of different stars and the movements of the planets. 3 times a week, they went out to the greenhouses behind the castle to study herbology with a dumpy little witch called Professor Sprout, where they learnt how to take care of all the strange plants and fungi and found out what they were used for. Oh my god. Please stop taking my hat off my head. Here's a mess. Okay. Easily the most boring lesson was History of Magic, which was the only class taught by a ghost. Professor Binns had been very old indeed when he had fallen asleep in front of the staff room fire and got up next morning to teach, leaving his body behind him. Binns droned on and on while they scribbled down names.
His body goes going.
He died and then became a ghost. That's what happened.
Who?
Professor Binns. He's the history teacher. Binns droned on and on while they scribbled down names and dates and got Emmerich the Evil and Ulrich the Oddball mixed up. Professor Flitwick, the charms teacher, was a tiny little wizard who had to stand on a pile of books to see over his desk. At the start of their first lesson, he took the register, and when he reached Harry's name, he gave an excited squeak and toppled out of sight. Professor McGonagall was again different. Harry had been quite right to think she wasn't a teacher to cross. Strict and clever, she gave them a talking to the moment they had sat down in her first class. Transfiguration.
They said I didn't get an iPad, so I thought that was true.
But you did?
Yes, even though.
Okay. It's all good.
And I'll probably get the same thing tomorrow.
An iPad?
I'm worried I won't like today.
Buddy, you will. It'll be okay. Tomorrow's Friday. They'll be chill tomorrow. Everyone's chill and happy on Friday because it's the weekend almost. Okay, transfiguration is some of the most complex and dangerous magic you will learn at Hogwarts, she said. Anyone messing around in my class will leave and not come back. You have been warned. Then she changed her desk into a... What?
Who's messing around?
She's just telling them not to mess around. Then she changed her desk.
Who is?
Professor McGonagall, the one who turns into a cat. Then she changed her desk into a pig and back again. They were all very impressed and couldn't wait to get started, but soon realized they weren't going to be changing the furniture into animals for a long time. After making a lot of complicated notes, they were each given a match.
Whoever's messing around in her class.
Nobody's messing around. She's just setting the standard. It's the first day of school. She's telling them don't mess around. Because it's a dangerous subject, so you need to take it seriously and be careful. Okay. After making a lot of complicated...
Because if you bang something, then one of her kids is leaving.
Well, just somebody could get hurt or something could go wrong with the spell, so you should take it seriously. Magic can be dangerous. After making a lot of complicated notes, they were each given a match.
Magic is dangerous?
It can be, yeah, for sure.
What, does it sting?
No, it's magic, so it's unpredictable if you don't know how to control it. After making a lot of complicated notes, they were each given a match and started trying to turn it into a needle. By the end of the lesson, only Hermione Granger had made any difference to her match. Professor McGonagall showed the class how it had gone all silver and pointy and gave Hermione a rare smile. The class everyone had really been looking forward to was Defense Against the Dark Arts.
You used to come over to Stucky.
Yeah, but we don't go to Stucky anymore, buddy.
Why?
Because you go to a different school now.
For now.
Yeah. Okay.
For now.
Yes, for now. Okay. The class everyone had really been looking forward to was Defense Against the Dark Arts. But Quirrell's lessons turned out to be a bit of a joke. His classroom smelled strongly of garlic, which everyone said was to ward off a vampire he'd met in Romania and was afraid would be coming back to get him one of these days. His turban, he told them, had been given to him by an African prince as a...
picking Harry up?
Nobody. Everybody lives at the school, buddy. They sleep there. His turban, he told them, had been given to him by an African prince as a thank you.
Who's picking up Harry?
Phoenix, they live at the school. They sleep in their rooms at the school. Nobody's picking anybody up. Okay?
Why you pick me up?
But this is a boarding school, so they live on campus. Some schools you live there, and this is one of them. Okay? If you have family to visit, you go there during the holidays. Harry doesn't have any family, so he's just going to stay at school. Okay.
Except for the Dursleys.
Yeah, but he doesn't want to hang out with them. He'd rather stay at school. Okay. His turban, he told them, had been given to him by an African prince as a thank you for getting rid of a troublesome zombie, but they weren't sure they believed this story. For one thing, when Seamus Finnegan asked eagerly to hear how Quirrell had fought off the zombie, Quirrell went pink and started talking about the weather. For another, they had noticed that a funny smell hung around the turban, and the Weasley twins insisted that it was stuffed full of garlic as well, so that Quirrell was protected wherever he went. Harry was very relieved to find out that he wasn't miles behind everyone else. Lots of people had come from Muggle families and, like him, hadn't had any idea that they were witches and wizards. There was so much to learn that even people like Ron didn't have much of a head start. Friday was an important day for Harry and Ron. They finally managed to find their way down to the Great Hall for breakfast without getting lost once. "What have we got today?" Harry asked Ron as he poured sugar on his porridge. "Double potions with the Slytherin," said Ron. "Snape's head of Slytherin House. They say he always favours them. We'll be able to see if it's true."
What has he done in the book of them?
Who?
Professor,
Snape?
Yes.
He doesn't die till the very end. It's pretty sad. But he's alive right now. Okay. "Wish McGonagall favoured us," said Harry.
McGonagall?
Professor McGonagall was head of Gryffindor House, but it hadn't stopped her giving them a huge pile of homework the day before. Just then, the post arrived. Harry had got used to this by now, but it had given him a bit of a shock on the first morning when about 100 owls had suddenly streamed into the Great Hall during breakfast, circling the tables until they saw their owners and dropping letters and packages onto their laps. Hedwig hadn't brought Harry anything so far. She sometimes flew in to nibble his ear and have a bit of toast before going off to sleep in the owlery with the other school owls. This morning, however, she fluttered down between the marmalade and the sugar bowl and dropped a note onto Harry's plate. Harry tore it open at once. "Dear Harry," it said in a very untidy scroll, "I know you get Friday afternoons off, so would you like to come and have a cup of tea with me around 3? I want to hear..."
Hagrid.
It's Hagrid, yeah. "I want to hear all about your first week. Send us an answer back with Hedwig. Hagrid." Harry borrowed Ron's quill, scribbled "Yes, please, see you later" on the back of the note, and sent Hedwig off again. It was lucky that Harry had tea with Hagrid to look forward to, because the potions lesson turned out to be the worst thing that had happened to him so far. At the start of term banquet, Harry had got the idea that Professor Snape disliked him. By the end of the first potions lesson, he knew he'd been wrong. Snape didn't dislike Harry. He hated him. Potions lessons took place down in one of the dungeons. It was colder here than up in the main castle, and would have been quite creepy enough without the pickled animals floating in glass jars all around the walls. Snape, like Flitwick, started the class by taking the register, and, like Flitwick, he paused at Harry's name.
Are you running out of storage?
No. "Ah, yes," he said softly. "Harry Potter, our new celebrity." Here's a picture of Snape, actually. It is a pretty creepy picture. Look at all those weird things in jars. There's Snape. He looks kind of mean, right? So.
Who is?
That's Professor Snape. The one who doesn't like Harry, or actually hates Harry. Draco Malfoy and his friends Crabbe and Goyle sniggered behind their hands. Snape finished calling the names and looked up at the class. His eyes were black like Hagrid's, but they had none of Hagrid's warmth. They were cold and empty and made you think of dark tunnels. "You are here to learn the subtle science and exact art of potion-making," he began. He spoke in barely more than a whisper, but they caught every word. Like Professor McGonagall, Snape had the gift of keeping a class silent without effort. "As there is little foolish wand-waving here, many of you will hardly believe this is magic. I don't expect you will really understand the beauty of the softly simmering cauldron with its shimmering fumes, the delicate power of liquids that creep through human veins, bewitching the mind and ensnaring the senses. I can teach you how to bottle fame, brew glory, even stop a death, if you aren't as big a bunch of dunderheads as I usually have to teach." More silence followed this little speech. Harry and Ron exchanged looks with raised eyebrows. Hermione Granger was on the edge of her seat and looked desperate to start proving that she wasn't a dunderhead. "Potter," said Snape suddenly, "what would I get if I added powdered root of asphodel to an infusion of wormwood?" "Powdered roots of what? To an infusion of what?" Harry glanced at Ron, who looked as stumped as he was. Hermione's hand had shot into the air. "I don't know, sir," said Harry. Snape's lips curled into a sneer. "Tut, tut. Fame, clearly, isn't everything." He ignored Hermione's hand. "Let's try again. Potter, where would you look if I told you to find me a bezoar?" Hermione stretched her hand as high into the air as it would go, without leaving her seat, but Harry didn't have the faintest idea what a bezoar was. He tried not to look at Malfoy, Crabbe, and Goyle, who were shaking with laughter. "I don't know, sir." "Thought you wouldn't open a book before coming, eh, Potter?" Harry forced himself to keep looking straight into those cold eyes. He had looked through his books at the Dursleys, but did Snape expect him to remember everything in 1,000 magical herbs and fungi? Snape was still ignoring Hermione's quivering hand. "What is the difference, Potter, between monkshood and wolfsbane?" At this, Hermione stood up, her hand stretching towards the dungeon ceiling. "I don't know," said Harry quietly. "I think Hermione does, though. Why don't you try her?" A few people laughed. Harry caught Seamus's eye, and Seamus winked. Snape, however, was not pleased. "Sit down," he snapped at Hermione. "For your information, Potter, asphodel and wormwood make a sleeping potion so powerful it is known as the draught of living death. A bezoar is a stone taken from the stomach of a goat, and it will save you from most poisons. As for monkshood and wolfsbane, they are the same plant, which also goes by the name of aconite. Well, why aren't you all copying this down?" There was a sudden rummaging for quills and parchment. Over the noise, Snape said, "And a point will be taken from Gryffindor House for your cheek, Potter." Things didn't improve for the Gryffindors as the potions lesson continued. Snape put them all into pairs and set them to mixing up a simple potion to cure boils. He swept around in his long black cloak, watching them weigh dried nettles and crush snake fangs, criticizing almost everyone except Malfoy, whom he seemed to like. He was just telling everyone to look at the perfect way Malfoy had stewed his horned slugs when clouds of acid-green smoke and a loud hissing filled the dungeon. Neville had somehow managed to melt Seamus's cauldron into a twisted blob, and their potion was seeping across the stone floor, burning holes in people's shoes. Within seconds, the whole class was standing on their stools, while Neville, who had been drenched in the potion when the cauldron collapsed, moaned in pain as angry red boils sprang up all over his arms and legs. "Idiot boy!" snarled Snape, clearing the spilled potion away with one wave of his wand. "I suppose you added the porcupine quills before taking the cauldron off the fire?" Neville whimpered as boils started to pop up all over his nose. "Take him to the hospital wing," Snape spat at Seamus. Then he rounded on Harry and Ron, who had been working next to Neville. "You, Potter, why didn't you tell him not to add the quills? Thought he'd make you look good if he got it wrong, did you? That's another point you've lost for Gryffindor." This was so unfair that Harry opened his mouth to argue, but Ron kicked him behind their cauldron. "Don't push it," he muttered. "I've heard Snape can turn very nasty." As they climbed the steps out of the dungeon an hour later, Harry's mind was racing and his spirits were low. He'd lost 2 points for Gryffindor in his very first week. Why did Snape hate him so much? "Cheer up," said Ron. "Snape's always taking points off Fred and George. Can I come and meet Hagrid with you?" At 5 to 3, they left the castle and made their way across the grounds. Hagrid lived in a small wooden house on the edge of the Forbidden Forest. A crossbow and a pair of galoshes were outside the front door. When Harry knocked, they heard a frantic scrabbling from inside and several booming barks. Then Hagrid's voice rang out, saying, "Back, Fang, back!" Hagrid's big, hairy face appeared in the crack as he pulled the door open. "Hang on," he said. "Back, Fang!" He let them in, struggling to keep a hold on the collar of an enormous black bullhound. There was only one room inside. Hams and pheasants were hanging from the ceiling. A copper kettle was boiling on the open fire, and in a corner stood a massive bed with a patchwork quilt over it. "Make yourselves at home," said Hagrid, letting go of Fang, who bounded straight at Ron and started licking his ears. Ooh, there's a pretty full-size double-page picture. It's got pumpkins, nice little garden. Hagrid's hut. Okay. Hagrid, wait, what? What is this? Like Hagrid, Fang was clearly not as fierce as he looked. "This is Ron," Harry told Hagrid, who was pouring boiling water into a large teapot and putting rock cakes onto a plate. "Another Weasley, eh?" said Hagrid, glancing at Ron's freckles. "I spent half my life chasing your twin brothers away from the forest." The rock cakes almost broke their teeth, but Harry and Ron pretended to be enjoying them as they told Hagrid all about their first lessons. Fang rested his head on Harry's knee and drooled all over his robes. Harry and Ron were delighted to hear Hagrid call Filch "that old git." "And as for that cat, Mrs. Norris, I'd like to introduce her to Fang sometime. Do you know, every time I go up to the school, she follows me everywhere. Can't get rid of her. Filch puts her up to it." Harry told Hagrid about Snape's lesson. Hagrid, like Ron, told Harry not to worry about it, that Snape liked hardly any of the students. But he seemed to really hate me. Rubbish, said Hagrid. Why should he? Yet Harry couldn't help thinking that Hagrid didn't quite meet his eyes when he said that. How's your brother, Charlie? Hagrid asked Ron. I liked him a lot. Great with animals. Harry wondered if Hagrid had changed the subject on purpose. While Ron told Hagrid all about Charlie's work with dragons, Harry picked up a piece of paper that was lying on the table under the tea cozy. It was a cutting from the Daily Prophet. Gringotts break-in latest. Investigations continue into the break-in at Gringotts on 31st July, widely believed to be the work of dark wizards or witches unknown. Gringotts goblins today insisted that nothing had been taken. The vault that was searched had in fact been emptied the same day. But we're not telling you what was in there, so keep your noses out if you know what's good for you, said a Gringotts spokesgoblin this afternoon. Harry remembered Ron telling him on the train that someone had tried to rob Gringotts, but Ron hadn't mentioned the date. Hagrid, said Harry, that Gringotts break-in happened on my birthday. It might have been happening while we were there. There was no doubt about it. Hagrid definitely didn't meet Harry's eyes this time. He grunted and offered him another rock cake. Harry read the story again. The vault that was searched had in fact been emptied earlier that same day. Hagrid had emptied Vault 713, if you could call it emptying, taking out that grubby little package. Had that been what the thieves were looking for? As Harry and Ron walked back to the castle for dinner, their pockets weighed down with rock cakes they'd been too polite to refuse, Harry thought that none of the lessons he'd had so far had given him as much to think about as tea with Hagrid. Had Hagrid collected that package just in time? Where was it now? And did Hagrid know something about Snape that he didn't want to tell Harry? My little guest fell asleep again. That's Chapter 8, The Potions Master. Harry's had his first lessons. Snape has a lifelong grudge against Harry, which we won't learn the reason behind until book 7. It's pretty tragic and fucked up. It's like an incel. No. Anyway. And something's going on with the Gringotts break-in thingy. Chapter 9 is going to be the Midnight Duel. It's a picture of the lake. Very nice. And I guess we'll probably read that one tomorrow. Anyway, thanks for listening. Do you want to say anything, buds? To the camera? Alright, bye. Tune in next time.